Hey, gorgeous. Welcome to season 2 of the Hormone P.U.Z.Z.L.E Podcast. I'm your host, Coach Kayla Smith, CEO of the Hormone P.U.Z.L.E Society, a women's health hub for fertility, hormones, and the business of coaching, creator of the Hormone P.U.Z.L.E method, an infertility warrior, 2-time boy mom, and women's health expert. This podcast is for women struggling with infertility, painful periods, terrible PMS, or really just any symptom of hormone imbalance that they are ready to eliminate for good. Tune in weekly as we interview amazing experts in the fields of women's health, breaking down those hormone walls, nerding out on nutrition, and having way too much fun. Whether you're beginning your journey or you've been struggling for years, we're going to finally help you put those pieces of your hormone puzzle back together so that you can get pregnant and eliminate those pesky symptoms for good. Are you ready? This season is packed with even more expert guests sharing groundbreaking knowledge, giving you that jolt of energy that you so desperately need, sending you lots of virtual hugs, and inspiring you to take your fertility into your own hands and make that baby. Thank you so much for tuning in. Now let's get started on your road to transformation. On today's show, we have Maddie Miles, founder and CEO of PLH, which is Peace.Love.Hormones, a brand that educates and empowers menstruators to take back control of their health through education and top quality supplements. She created PLH after going through the ringer with her own health, and she was diagnosed with anxiety, depression, insomnia, anorexia, and even Lyme's disease during her young adult life. She was able to heal her body, spirit, and mind naturally, and now she's on a mission to help you all do the same. Welcome to the Peace.Love.Hormones family philosophy, using an integrative approach to healing the body naturally, getting to the root causes of your hormonal imbalances, quality supplements that work, and educate and empower menstruators to break that period stigma. This show, we're going to talk all about periods and how to heal your body and your hormones naturally for optimal health and fertility, as well as one of my favorite topics, cycle optimizing and how to be freaking happy throughout this process. Now let's welcome Maddie to the show. Hey, Maddie, welcome to the show.
Hi, Kayla. Thank you. Thank you for having me. And hello to all of your listeners.
We are so excited to have you here. So let's jump right into it. Tell us a little bit more about you, how you started working in women's health and how you healed many of your ailments in your 20s.
Absolutely. Wow. So where do I even begin? I feel like I'm still working on my elevator pitch because it's
Right?
a very, it's a very long story. And I mean, I swear, like no matter how many podcasts I'm on, I feel like it's getting slightly better. So basically I will not make this an hour long intro, although I could. But you know, my health journey started back when I was in 5th grade. I started seeing my first ever like medical specialist for, truly what it was were imbalances within my body displaying as anxiety, insomnia, and an eating disorder. And, my parents, who are absolutely incredible human beings, were frightened for their life that their, child wasn't healthy and wasn't happy. And so they just put me in, I saw like every medical specialist underneath the sun, it felt like. And I grew up in Chicago, Illinois. So, I was tossed around in this hospitalization program, this partial hospitalization one, this, like the Maudsley approach. I've done it all. And again, that was for diagnoses of anorexia, anxiety, insomnia, and depression.
Wow.
And amidst all of this, it was, it was a very up and down, roller coaster of recovery, because I would go into these programs and I would come out weight restored. So in their eyes, in like the medical field, I was recovered. However, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, I was anything but. I was actually probably worse off. And I couldn't wait to get out of the program. I couldn't wait to go back to my old habits. And I was so sneaky with it. Eating disorders are very, very sneaky, ego driven. And I, just would always go back to it. And so then my parents would realize, and I'd go into a different program. So it was like this yo-yo of a recovery. And amidst all of it, I was actually put on hormonal birth control because I never had a cycle. I never got it because, the chronic stress and anorexia just shut off my cycle. So I actually never experienced it. And, that was one of the big factors like that kind of determined like, well, is Maddie healthy yet? Or do we still need to keep going? Well, you still haven't gotten a period. And I remember, going into just like my regular PCP, and they were saying, well, I'll prescribe you the pill because I was, I had a boyfriend at the time. I was about to be sexually active, and the little bit of sex ed that I got in school, I learned that if I wasn't on the pill, I would get pregnant. So I, like anyone would do, I went in, I, asked for the pill. And, they make it very easy. It's just like a 5-minute appointment. But she did tell me during that appointment, cause she was like, you seem really underweight. And I was like, well, yeah, I kind of struggle with this. And she's like, oh, well, this will actually give you your period. And so in my head at the time, very sick and in a bad place, I was like, oh, sweet. Maybe this will get my parents off my back. And for anyone listening who doesn't know this, and for anyone who does already know this and probably over there shaking their head with me going, because we know that hormonal birth control actually shuts off ovulation. So you're not getting your period. I actually did get some breakthrough bleeding the first 2 months, but then nothing for the rest of the 6 years that I was on the pill. So, that didn't really work. And anyway, eventually I finally did decide, I came to the conclusion myself, which was monumental and needed for recovery, that, I am actually really sick. And it was the final time that I was hospitalized with a feeding tube. I was sent home from Spain, where I was studying abroad currently at the time, and was back in frigid cold Chicago, back in a hospital bed. And I just sat there and I went, okay, there's got to be more in life for me than this. And, I was sitting there, I was laying there with my parents and, medical doctors, listening to them talk amongst themselves, again, leaving me out of the conversation like it had been for the last, 8 years of my life. I was never part of the conversation. It was always like, Maddie's sick. What are we doing with her next? And I was over it. I wanted control back over my life. And I knew that between doctors and my parents, and then my eating disorder, those were all the things and the people that were having control over me. It wasn't actually Maddie. And so I wish I could say it was an overnight transition, but it was a lot of hard work. And I feel very fortunate for the Spain situation because I was so determined to get back there. I'm also a Leo. So anyone who's a Leo understands that we're very stubborn, and I was, stubborn throughout my entire life, still am. But I was very determined to get back to Spain, and to have, my medical team and my parents saying, absolutely not, you're not going back overseas, made me want to go even more. I also did have a little Spanish boyfriend over there. So I was like, get me back. So I, of course, typical me, like made a little deal with them. I, really put up a good, compelling debate. And I was just like, how about this? If I put on this much weight, because I knew that that's what they wanted, they wanted to see the number on the scale. They didn't really care as much as what was going on up here in my head, unfortunately, but I was like, I will work on that myself. And so I started to eat more with that, and with determination to get back to Spain. A lot of my emotional health started to be improved upon. However, I do want to mention I was still prescribed antidepressants. I was still on hormonal birth control, and also had Xanax for panic attacks. And so I finally got to go back to Spain. I was still being weighed there. My host family took me to La Farmacia to get weighed every Wednesday. We sent it to, it was this whole ordeal, but I got to go back. And that's when I finally got to like really start working on this all. And I got to do it in Spain, which was pretty fun. Yes. And I came back from Spain. I came back to the US for college, and I studied nutrition and dietetics in undergrad. And it was very questionable if I should have gone into that, because originally I was talking to my parents and they were like, this may cause more eating disorder tendencies. And, and I was like, but actually I think the opposite. I think seeing it, for how it should be will actually help me.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so that was in the classroom. Outside of the classroom, I was still working on my own health, on my emotional and physical health, with a completely new team within Chicago, and of all integrative specialists. So integrative psychiatrist who actually didn't want me on any medication. He was a strong advocate for, let's change up your diet and what you're eating. Let's make sure you're sleeping enough, reducing toxin exposure. All of these things that are such a first language to me now was so foreign to me back then. It was so woo-woo, I remember sitting there going like, my mom can even like confirm this. We got back in the car afterwards and I was like, how is food going to make me feel better? Like I was so confused. And, I should mention that in like all of those programs, those hospitalization programs I was in, they were feeding me like the worst of the worst food. So, impacting my gut health, my liver, which impacts your brain health and your neurotransmitters and how you think and feel about yourself. So I was not doing well. And still didn't have a period because I was on hormone and birth control. So I know people are probably listening, like there's so much going on right now, but anyway, my eyes were opened up to nutrition, to herbalism, because I also contracted Lyme's disease while hiking in Colorado and did a 4-month herbal protocol and eradicated it. I was introduced to vitamin therapy. So like the IV therapy where you're getting those high doses of vitamins because I was very vitamin deficient. Again, all of these things that like, when I was super anxious when I was younger, it was never brought to our attention because doctors didn't know that, she may have a really heavy toxic overload right now, which is making her anxious. And also toxin overload is linked to anorexia. Also nutrient deficiencies, which I was very nutrient deficient. And we know that stress on top of that depletes your essential vitamins and minerals. And so it was just like this vicious cycle. So I was really stuck in a rut, and, working with that integrative team really pulled me out of it. And like I said, simultaneously in school and my nutrition and dietetic classes, I was like, this is actually missing. There's a huge gap in this education right now. It's still this one size fits all. It reminded me just of like the hospitalization programs and all of those years of work I did within Western medicine. And, it really didn't align with what I was doing actually to heal my own body with the integrative clinic in Chicago. And so, so that's kind of how I knew like, okay, I don't want to go. Cause I was like, I'm going to go and, work in a hospital and wear a white coat and, be that. And my dad, who knows me so well, is just like, that would make you miserable. Like, you don't want to work with people who have already, unfortunately, gotten to that state of like, they're so unhealthy. You want to work with people to prevent ever getting there, just knowing you, like, that's going to drain your energy. And he was totally right. So I got out, and by the time I graduated undergrad, I was I was definitely better, in a better state, but I was still not sleeping. I was still very anxious. I was so sensitive to noise. I remember living underneath someone my junior year of college because we were in an apartment, and like I could hear everything that the people above me did. And whenever there was a noise, my heart would like jump out of my chest and I'd get super anxious. So I was still like very on edge. I had no libido. And when I went into my integrative health program after undergrad in Boston, then it was brought to my attention like, hormonal birth control, ding, 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 the thing that I was taking every single day for the last 6 years impacts a lot of this that I was feeling. And so I got like head deep into this research. I mean, I went way beyond what we learned in class and just really did that because it was for my own self. It was for myself. I wasn't doing this to initially I wasn't doing this to help other people. I wasn't doing this to make a buck or anything like that. I was doing it because I was like, I have felt like crap for most of my life and I need to figure this out because this is not going to be my life. I'm in my 20s. Like I have 80 plus years to live, right. I can't do this. And so I stopped hormonal birth control, but before that, did a lot of the prep work. I adopted like the cycle tracking and cycle syncing method. I started incorporating seeds, which was also great for me because I realized when I started to seed cycle, I'm kind of a little hesitant to eating seeds because of those eating disorder tendencies, and so that was great for me. And I mean, I got off hormonal birth control within 4 to 8 weeks. I just felt like myself again. Like I was like, oh my gosh, like the little inner child Maddie is back. All of a sudden I want to have sex all the time. And well, not literally all the time, but I had my libido back kind of all the time though. I had my libido back. I had my mood back. I don't take anything to go to sleep now. I don't even take melatonin. I don't take anything to go to sleep. I literally, my bed hits the pillow and I'm asleep. This is very Vata of me, but I'm asleep for like 8 to 9 hours every single night, like dead asleep though. Yeah. And it's amazing.
It's amazing.
You know, I'm so much happier. Like I have never heard so much in my entire life, maybe when I was younger, but I mean, there's a huge chunk between like when I was younger and, you know, healthier versus like all of those years of, you know, stuff that I struggled with, but I never heard so much that I'm glowing. Like right when I got off the pill, everyone was like, "You're so glowing." And I was like, "That is so cool," because I've never heard that before. Maybe when I was younger, but not in a long time. And so, you know, it's been such a beautiful transition. I realized from talking to the women in my family, which we have we're very female dominant in my family. That's for sure. I actually just had my first nephew, which is, you know, awesome, but mostly girls in my family. And between talking to the women in my family who the older generations have all gotten hysterectomies, this thing's been burned, this thing's been tied, they had heavy periods, you know, so much has been going on. Even with my sisters and then my girlfriends too, I just realized like my close, you know, knit circle who I would talk to about this, everyone is really struggling with their health. And, you know, just knowing like facts, like over 80% of menstruators report experiencing PMS symptoms. 15% report them being so excruciating, they can't even get up out of bed in the morning. And so that's when I really just took what at the time was called Madeline's Cookbook. It was my health and wellness blog. And I just did a 360 overnight. And I was like, we're talking about periods. We're talking about vaginas and vulvas and our cervix and ovaries and all of these things. And I'm going to educate you all on this, whether you like it or not. And like, and it was just a total transition. It's really cool. You know, my OG followers who have been following me since like, again, Madeline's Cookbook time. And I was just posting vegan recipes and how to nourish yourself through food. And really just now it's like, owning your hormones, owning your cycle, owning your divine feminine and your womanhood, but also just, you know, because not all women menstruate and vice versa. Not all menstruators are women. So it's really just like empowering menstruators. So if you have a period, but it's like not just menstruators, it's also women who are going through perimenopause or postmenopause. Like we are all in this together. We are all the same, but just in different phases of life. And, you know, my work really lies in like, let's make sure that we're doing all the work in our fertile years so that we have, you know, a normal menopause, a healthy menopause, one that does not come earlier than it should, one that doesn't, you know, cause these hot flashes and, you know, really crazy anxiety and panic attacks. So that's why I'm so passionate about this, is because there's just such a gap in the education system. And, you know, like the big guys only make a buck if we're sick. And so there aren't many people out there, like a lot of these even at home tests now that like test your, you know, hormones are also owned by the big guys, you know? And so it's like really just helping all of us navigate this world that we live in that has become like very ego driven, in my opinion, and come back to like our inner sense, which is our infradian rhythm, which we can get into if you want to, but that's, you know, our cycle, our 26 to 32 day cycle. It makes us unique from men, from the male body, where they just have the circadian rhythm. We have both the circadian rhythm for our wake and sleep, but we have the infradian rhythm, which is our menstrual cycle, which is comprised of 4 phases, which most women are not taught, unfortunately. It should be a birthright. But, you know, those dramatic shifts in hormones are also causing shifts in our mood, our energy, our creativity, our metabolism, our appetite, and the foods that we should be eating and the exercises we should be doing and how we should be structuring our lives and our businesses should all also flow with that. So, you know, throw out that notion, everyone listening, of like, you need to wake up every single day and have the same exact day. You need to go crush your body in an early morning workout and get all of this stuff done before the clock turns 8:30, 9 a.m. You know, so I love to teach on all of this and educate on all of this. And There we go. I don't know how long that was.
Yep.
That was not
That
the
was
best
great.
elevator pitch. How long was this elevator?
That was great. And I thank you so much for sharing all of that. It sounds like you've really done a lot of work and been through a lot. And so, I know that that has helped our audience tremendously. So thanks for sharing that. But I would love to dive into, we talk a lot about cycle syncing. We actually call it cycle optimizing over here. And, kind of dive into what that is. What is that concept? And maybe go through the 4 phases of the cycle and give us little tidbits around each on, what should we be eating and the activities we should be doing.
Absolutely. So yeah, so I just explained how we have 4 phases and how things are all shifting, like our hormones, and therefore all of those other, the mood, the metabolism, all of those other characteristics are also changing. So we'll get into the first phase, which makes sense. Let's start off with number 1. It's also the phase that I'm in right now. So that is your period, your bleed. And this is when your endometrium, your uterine lining, which has been building up throughout your entire cycle, or the previous cycle, is all shedding now, unless you're pregnant. Then your progesterone levels stay high, you're starting to nourish that embryo, but we're going to talk as if you're not pregnant and you are going through this cycle. So I right now am shedding my endometrium lining. This is your bleed. Your hormones are naturally at their lowest. Now, the name of the game with hormones and how you feel is always balance. So you should never be so tired that you can't get up out of bed in the morning, but it also is very normal and healthy to feel naturally just less motivated, and instead of resisting that, I love to teach and preach just going with the flow, with your flow. And instead of the more we resist things, the more stressed out we're going to be. And that stress leads to inflammation, which leads to PMS, hormone imbalances, vicious cycle. Mm-hmm. So, really just taking a step back, again, less is definitely more during this phase, but that doesn't mean do nothing. So there are some great studies showing that women who do no exercise during this phase experience PMS just as much as women who crush their bodies through a high intensity workout during this phase. So balance, name of the game. I love to say, how about we just do long walks? Yin yoga. I did an awesome yoga class this morning. It was honestly a little bit higher intensity than I would have liked. So I didn't do as much that she was instructing us to do. And I kind of took a lot more child's poses. And I also had my foam roller and I was rolling out my body. And so that's the menstrual phase. Again, your hormones at your lowest. This is your full permission. It's only a couple of days long. My bleed is only 4 days long. So really just give yourself that permission to take a step back. It depends on who you're talking to. Some women do start to feel that creativity and need or desire to start planning out the next cycle. I normally get that more so when my bleed is done and I'm starting to enter into what is known as the follicular phase. And it's called the follicular phase because a hormone called our follicle stimulating hormone is on the rise during this phase. And it's on the rise, and estrogen is also on the rise. And once estrogen hits its peak around ovulation, actually the follicle stimulating hormone starts to decrease. So the role of FSH is to create follicles, which are these sacs containing our ovum, our eggs. And, the idea of the estrogen decreasing FSH is so that we only have one egg. We only need one egg to be fertilized. Again, if you end up getting that egg fertilized, if that is your choice and you want to get pregnant, there are so many benefits to having a consistent cycle, to ovulating, to having your period bleed. So many benefits. But the prime, reason for that is to procreate life. Our bodies are very smart. They're just programmed to do this. I'm just I can always just picture it the little egg dropping from the ovary and coming through the fallopian tubes out through the cervix to I have this little visual that I always think of and that. And then, if it doesn't get fertilized, it disintegrates, and then it disintegrates along with our uterine lining and we start to bleed. It's I wish people could see this video because I'm literally just moving my hands around like this because it's this beautiful cycle that happens again every, 26 to 32 days. And so anyway, it's really great though, because knowing this and knowing that that peak in estrogen, testosterone, that happens when you ovulate, that only happens once a cycle. And because of those hormone shifts and also shifts in the pH within your vagina and your cervix opening up over the span of 12 to 24 hours, that is really the only time that we can actually conceive. It's the only fertile time, which is really, really cool to educate on, because again, we're just taught this, false notion that like we're fertile all the time. That like, I remember being told when I was younger that I could get pregnant being in a hot tub with a male.
Oh my gosh.
And I was so scared. I remember asking my mom, I was like, is that true? Like, I didn't go in hot tubs with my guy friends for a little bit until I summed up the courage to ask my mom if that was true or not. And she was like, absolutely not. Like, yeah, there are all these like really harmful narratives that we're told as young women. And, the truth is that, of course, this is, take this with a grain of potassium, because, fertility is actually a widespread epidemic within this country. But generally speaking, the male, he's fertile all the time. And the female is only fertile during her fertile window. Again, when those hormones hit their peaks. Also, in order to, even if an egg is fertilized, that doesn't mean you're just automatically pregnant. You need ample amounts of progesterone to carry that on. So, like between fertility issues and miscarriages, which fall underneath that umbrella, it's actually really hard. That's like the truth is it's really hard for a woman to be getting pregnant nowadays. Again, like there's so many things, toxin exposure. We're literally running on stress hormones. Like I see so many women in my practice who, from the outside, they look like very healthy women. They work out, they take care of themselves, they eat healthy, but they don't have their cycles, or they have really terrible PMS. And it's because we're living in a man's world where it's like go, 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 go all the time. We're not taught, what our cycle is, how to, much less are we taught like how to actually live with it. And I'm realizing now that I'm totally getting off into a side tangent. Typical me. Anyway, so that was the follicular stage. And then you get into your fertile phase. And after that, between, ovulation and then your bleed, which should be anywhere from 10 to 14 days, you are in what is called the luteal phase. And that is typically coined with like PMS symptoms. So again, if you have any nutrient deficiencies, hormone imbalances, inflammation, yes, you're definitely going to be experiencing PMS during this phase. But if everything is in check and in line, this is going to be actually a great phase where, during the first half of it, you may feel a little bit more energetic. We do have a second spike in estrogen during this part of our cycle. So you still may be feeling a little bit more, energetic, like you can still do not high intensity workouts, but you can maybe go for a run or do something, again, like whatever feels right for your body. And as you're nearing your bleed, like that week before your bleed, you're going to feel that innate desire to go more inward, to do more like yoga, Pilates, bar, more mat type work. And really just, this is like the time where a lot of women experience the desire for self-care. So getting acupuncture done or that massage done. Please don't ever feel guilty for doing that for yourself. In fact, give yourself a pat on the back and be like, heck yeah, I just took time for myself, take care of myself. And also the phase where a lot of women want to, this is, I think, the coolest part, is actually give gifts and make, these interpersonal connections with other people. So if you think back to like primal days, so if you would have fertilized an egg and, you're on your way to pregnancy and having this beautiful baby, you'd want to be nurturing these relationships within your community, because we know that, whether it's raising a child, taking care of a dog, starting a business, you want support. And so, we're like literally biologically programmed to want to nurture our relationships during that phase. So for anyone listening, really take note if like you start to notice that you do really like to gift people during this phase, have people over for dinner. My love language is cooking. So I love to have friends over and cook for them. Literally every single day this week, I've had someone over to cook for them. And tomorrow I got invited over to my other girlfriend's place, she's on her period right now, and she's cooking us all dinner, but I'm making like a side and a dessert. I was like, please tell me what I should bring, so it's really cool. And then, I'll see in, a couple of days that I'm going to get into my follicular phase, and I'm going to want to be jumping off the walls. I have all this energy. I want to be creating and planning. And, I always tell my partner, we love to travel, and he knows when to bring up traveling with me and when to not. And same with like new ideas in terms of business or anything like that. Like if he tells me during my luteal phase, I'm like, babe, that's a great idea, but talk to me in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And he understands that. Like he loves, tracking my cycle with me. He loves all phases of me, he says, which is, I was like, that's how he's a keeper. But he loves the follicular phase because he's like, is it the follicular phase yet? Like, can we start to plan? So, it's really great and, super cool and unique that we get these 4 phases of ourselves. And like, I just want to throw that narrative out that like women are crazy hormonal because we do have hormones that fluctuate. If you want to call it hormonal, that's fine. But it's also really cool that we get these 4 versions of ourselves and they're also very predictable. So, with the male, you don't really know what you're going to get on a daily basis, but a woman, if she, is cycling consistently in her period brain, and her hormones are all balanced, then we actually it's very predictable how you're going to feel on a given day during your cycle. Like if you're in peak ovulation and you also slept well the night before, chances are you're going to be pretty energetic for yourself. Everyone's version of energetic and tired is different, of course. So just really lean into like however you're feeling and, journal it, keep track of it, whether it's in an app, a period app. We have such great femtech now. Little caveat to that, never rely solely on that, to tell you when you're ovulating or not, because that is actually when we get those unwanted pregnancies. Or frustration for women who are like trying to conceive and, again, they're getting this false reading from their app telling them that they're ovulating and it's not working. So always take it with a grain of potassium. I really do like to use those apps for more so just like the convenience of being able to like hop in it no matter where you are, whether you're traveling, whether you forgot to do it in the morning when you're home and you're out at work now, and you can just open up an app and log in, how you're feeling that day, what your cervical fluid was. It really guides you through that. Full disclosure, I don't use any apps. I do use a Daisy thermometer, which syncs up, but I also just love to journal myself. So, and to repeat that, I use a Daisy thermometer, and I also just ordered the temp drop bracelet because I'm really curious. Yeah.
Love them.
I've never gotten to wear like a full on wearable. So I'm really curious to see that. My partner, he just got the Aura ring to track his insights. And I know that the Aura ring did just add cycle tracking, but I'm too nervous to try anything that new on the market. Because I literally do use this to prevent pregnancy, and I've been using it now for 2 years, have not gotten pregnant. I just don't want to, like I said, never rely on technology. It's faulty. What's not faulty is knowing your own body. So
exactly. Yeah. And that's a great point too. Like it's so important to track your cycle, to know your body, to track your cervical fluids, and to really know, if you're ovulating, when you're ovulating, and what that looks like. And I mean, I'm shocked every day to hear women that I talk to that are struggling with fertility. They've been trying for years and they're not tracking their cycle. I'm like, that is the first place you should start.
You know what's so crazy? One of my beloved clients came in and super frustrated, had already spent a lot of money on fertility treatments. And she was told by her doctor to have sex every single day. And I was
oh
like,
my God.
Whoa, especially it's one thing, I have a whole podcast episode on like the female orgasm and sex, and, really just also throwing that narrative out that like sex has to equal penetration, because for most women that actually does not feel the best. So sex can be, I recommend making like a little menu with your partner of like what actually turns you on and what feels good. And that is just considered sex. But, when speaking of like getting pregnant, it's the penetration. And so for a doctor to sit there and tell a woman who's already distraught, who's already stressed out about this, that she should have sex every single day, that totally, it does so many things. It changes the relationship and the partnership dynamic of like, now we're just having sex for this reason. Also, you're not fertile every day. So it's like, oh my goodness, it was so crazy. And by the way, she is pregnant now. So after working with me, but I was like, well, hold the phone here. Like, have you done any type of liver and kidney and gallbladder cleansing? Have you done any type of cleansing of the body? Between like medication use and trying to get pregnant. And also, we just live in a very toxic world. We encounter, so many toxic chemicals every single day because there are over 144,000 man-made toxic chemicals. And she had done no prep work on her body. She was super nutrient deficient. She wasn't taking any type of like vitamins, didn't have a supportive nutrition plan. And I was like, okay, let's just get that in line first and stop focusing on the getting pregnant part. And that's going to happen when your body is ready to do so.
Exactly.
Our bodies are very smart. We don't give them enough credit. Like they know what to do. And if they are not healthy, if they know that they're not healthy and they're stressed out, they're not going to try and bring life into this world. Like they just want to get yourself healthy before carrying on life. So always something that I like to remind women of, you're not a lost cause. Also, like, to take 2 years to try and get pregnant is also very normal. And I know like a lot of doctors are just like, oh, you've been trying for like 3 months and you haven't gotten pregnant. Like, here are the treatments.
Right.
So
let's do IVF.
Right.
No.
Yeah. Like it's like, oh, we're always in a rush in this world,
Yes.
Always in a rush.
Yep. We do have to take a short break to hear a word from our sponsors. We're going to come back in and I want to talk more practical tips. Like what food should we be eating? What lifestyle pieces should we be doing? All of that when we come back. Hey y'all, it's Coach Kayla here. I hope you are loving this episode as much as I am. We will be back in just a minute, but first, a word from our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by the Hormone P.U.Z.L.E Society, a women's health hub for fertility, hormones, and the business of coaching. Whether you're struggling to get pregnant with pesky hormone symptoms, or you're working to build a career in the fertility and women's health space, we have you covered. Visit our website at www.coachkayla.com to learn more on how we can help you. Text the keyword fertility to 615-257-8855 for your free fertility meal plan. Hey, Maddie, welcome back.
Hello.
All right, let's dive into practical tips. What food should we be eating for the 4 phases of our cycle?
Totally. So I'm not going to name like a lot of specific foods just because I'm a big fan of bioindividuality. And a lot of us, between gut issues and, food sensitivities and all this stuff, there are some foods that I would be doing a disservice if I just gave out all these foods and someone starts eating them and it actually starts causing inflammation. But I do really like their food focuses, I like to call them, for each of the phases. And so for like the menstrual phase, very nutrient dense foods that are going to replenish your body with like the iron and the other minerals and vitamins that your body is being depleted of during your bleed. That is like the food focus. And so, some pretty like, I think safe to say you can consume foods would be like, I really like the dark leafy greens, and like sea vegetables, like kombu and kelp and sushi nori. I really love all of those. Those always really replenish me. And I really do love kidney beans as well, but I know that especially if you have gut issues going on, any type of legume is probably going to hurt your stomach. Yes. And beets, I love beets during this phase. I actually am going to have like a beet kaboka stew tonight, and I'm so excited.
Ooh, yummy.
But yeah, just think really warm and grounding foods. That's going to feel really good for your uterus as well. Again, just replenishing those minerals. Dark cacao as well is great to have if you don't have any like histamine issues. I really love dark cacao. And then the follicular phase, I really like the fermented and more like light and fresh foods. Again, this depends on where you live and what like the season is. I always recommend for every phase, like to really eat with the season. You also save money that way. And also another thing, always, at least for the most part, try to buy organic as much as you can. This sounds kind of harsh, but like I did see this great quote the other day from like Dr. Stephen Cabral, and was like, you may as well spray pesticide down your throat if you're not going to eat organic produce. So it's a little harsh, but also very true. So like, retweet on that. Definitely stick to more organic, especially if you're eating the skin. Follicular phase, more like fermented, lighter and fresh foods. And then the method of cooking, I still like to stay to like the steam. You can like lightly saute things. I'm not a big fan of cooking with oils in general. I'll drizzle oil on food after it's been cooked, but I am just looking at my pressure cooker over here, and I love pressure cooking everything. It makes it really easy to digest, especially during the colder months. It's also stainless steel, and even my pots and pans, they're all non-toxic. So that's super important as well. And then the ovulatory phase, we're really focusing on like supporting your liver in general. So a lot of like liver supporting foods, and I love steaming your veggies. You can eat raw. Again, if it's a warmer climate and your gut can handle that, eat more raw foods. The ovulatory phase, you do have this abundance of energy. So you may not have as many food cravings during this phase, and you may be able to feel like you can kind of run on less. We actually need on average about like 269 calories more during the luteal and the menstrual phase. And that's because our resting cortisol rate is higher than it is during like the ovulatory and the follicular phase. So yeah, just really supporting your liver, getting in those amazing liver supporting herbs. I love dandelion. I love parsley. I love, licorice and peony, like all these things that are really great. Cilantro, really great for your liver. And yeah, so just focus on like foods that your body can process and digest properly, that won't cause inflammation, that also support your liver. And this is a great time I have my herbal supplement Soothe, and to be taking your Soothe, I recommend taking it all throughout your cycle. If you typically have heavier bleeds, you don't need to take it during your actual period, but taking it all cycle long, especially during like the ovulatory phase, and luteal phase. And then the luteal phase, this is when you should be eating foods really high in B vitamins, also magnesium, and serotonin boosting foods, especially if you're feeling like a little bit more sluggish during this phase. Because again, the more that you take care of yourself all cycle long, but especially during the luteal phase, right before your period, the easier your period's going to be as well. I love roasting and baking my foods during this phase, and pressure cooking as well. Again, just thinking more like warming and grounding as much as possible. And so yeah, those are like that's like the focus for foods during each of the 4 phases.
I love it. I love my pressure cooker too. And we just got an air fryer. Oh my gosh, that thing is amazing.
I brought out my air fryer last week because I was like, why do I never use this? It's just sitting like, rotting in the corner.
Sorry. I love it. I love it. Sorry. And my dog decided to bark because she wants to bark when I'm on a podcast.
Oh, cutie. It's okay. I can't even hear it. So.
Okay, good. Awesome. So any foods you recommend we avoid?
Yeah. So, caffeine, I'm not the biggest fan of caffeine at all. Like, especially coffee. I'm not a coffee drinker. Most of the population, over 50%, has, a genetic mutation that doesn't create the gene that creates the enzyme that digests caffeine. So a lot of us are, drinking caffeine. Also, caffeine has a half-life of, it's like 6 hours. Yeah. And so when you think about how people are having like their morning cup of coffee, then their mid-afternoon cup of coffee, it's way too much. Your body hasn't even processed that caffeine from earlier. And it's really hasn't processed that if you are one of those people who, can't digest caffeine. And that is me over here. I also have a double MTHFR genetic mutation. So it's, harder for me to especially digest that caffeine, and harder to detox as well. And there are certain vitamins that all my vitamins have to be methylated in order to actually, process them within my body. So I say coffee, no. If you're like, Maddie, I love my coffee, fine, have it during like the follicular and the ovulatory phase. But again, you shouldn't even need it then because you have a natural abundance of energy. But the real mistake comes when having coffee and those stimulants during your luteal and your menstrual phase, because again, we're feeling tired. So we feel like we need those stimulants, and, that wonks your blood sugar, and blood sugar dysregulation and the insulin resistance. All of these things directly impact our hormones as well, our sex hormones. And it also, it impacts our cortisol levels, which are our stress hormones, and all of those. So the adrenaline, epinephrine, norepinephrine, those are such funny words to say.
Yeah.
But those increasing downregulates the production of our progesterone and our estrogen and increases testosterone. So what does that mean? That can mean your hair's falling out. That can mean cystic acne, bloating, water retention, breast tenderness, you name it. So I really just say, like, stay away from the caffeine as much as you can. Matcha is a great, replacement. But again, if you run more on the anxious side, it's always bio-individualized. So if you're running on the anxious side, do not have that caffeine. And that's really my no-no. I mean, I don't recommend processed foods ever. Again, like, it's just, they don't suit your hormones or your overall health. So really keeping those to a bare minimum. Anything super salty as well, which can mess up your sodium and potassium and therefore cause bloating and water retention. So I really recommend that. I mean, the more like complex carbs you eat, and like those sweet potatoes and the squash and the carrots and the healthy fats, like all of your seeds pretty much. And I do love nuts as well. I can, digest almonds and cashews and all of that, but I know that some people can't. So always, very respectful of that. But yeah, and just, I love getting also like my fats from like whole sources. So, going back to the oil thing, I actually don't own any oil. I own coconut oil, but I really I like to eat coconut meat and coconut milk, avocados versus avocado oil. I like having olives, eating the whole olives instead of olive oil. So, that's the oil thing is, that's something that I kind of got into like a year ago, because a lot of my favorite vegan food spots in Austin were oil free. And I was like, oh, what's wrong with oil? So I kind of got into that whole realm, and just realized that for me personally, it feels really great, but I know people who do drizzle oil on their salads or whatever it is afterwards, and they don't get PMS or anything, unfavorable throughout their cycle. So I say, hey, don't fix it if it's not broken.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, I could talk to you all day, but we do have to wrap up. So tell us a little more about your company, Peace, Love, and Hormones. What do you guys do there? And tell us where we can find you and how we can work with you.
Absolutely. So find me through Instagram and through the website, and, everything, whether you're on the website, there are links to the Instagram, and vice versa. If you're on Instagram first, there are links to the website. And I'll give you all those links that you can link up in the show notes. But our, mission is it's just what I do. It's to end period stigma, to empower menstruators to take back control of their health. And I have an herbal supplement comprised of 10 Chinese and Native American herbs, that are clinically dosed. So you'll actually get, those benefits. I know a lot of people are like, I drink red raspberry tea and I don't feel any different. And, it's just because it's not enough concentration of the red raspberry leaf, because red raspberry leaf in itself is nutrient dense. It's a blood builder. It's incredible. It's uterine calming. So yeah, and that's actually one of the herbs in my herbal supplement. So I have my herbal supplement. I have a couple of other things in the queue. However, I just started selling P.U.Z.Z.L.E back in July, and I've already sold out 4 times. And I'm really just trying to I have other milestones I want to hit with P.U.Z.Z.L.E before I'll release the other ones. Like, I'm trying to get into Canada and international shipping right now, because we're just within the US. And so Canada is actually going to be happening by the time this podcast is released. We'll be shipping in Canada, which is super exciting. It's been a long time coming. And yeah, just really going slow with this one. I mean, it's my baby and I worked so flipping hard on it, and, just making sure that the proper education around herbs is there, and that people understand what P.U.Z.Z.L.E does. So yeah, and then I also have my Hormone Harmony book on my website. It gives you the overview of cycle syncing and grocery list, and, has a chart in there for you to start tracking your cycle, as well as some recipes at the end. I have a vegan cookbook that was actually the first thing that I ever created, and it's still up on my website for very, very cheap, but it's an ebook of just plant-based recipes, and I'm not sure how much longer that'll be up there for, but it's still up there. And I do have some t-shirts and other swag, so you can be a part of the community in whichever way you want, but I also have my own podcast, and I have a YouTube channel, and I have all these things. So subscribe to it. I'm here for you all. This is my life's mission and passion. So however I can assist you, I'm all for it.
I love it. So, well, thank you so much, Maddie, for being here. It's been so fun to talk to you, and I really appreciate it. So thank you.
Of course. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, ladies, for listening to the Hormone P.U.Z.Z.L. Podcast. Until next time. Bye. Hey, hang on just 1 second before you go. I want to make sure that you are aware of all of the amazing free resources that I have for you on my website at CoachKayla.com. From a fertility meal plan, a cycle syncing quick start guide, a holistic healing cookbook, as well as master classes, blog posts by me and some amazing experts in the fields of fertility, hormones, and nutrition. So many wonderful resources that will help you on your journey. And I wish there had been something like this when I was going through my 2 years of infertility, but there just wasn't. And so that's why I decided to create all of this for you. So make sure that you go and check it out and you take advantage of this plethora of support that I have provided for you. And spoiler alerts, these were some of the same tricks and the same foods that I used to get myself pregnant, not once, but twice, even after my doctors said that I couldn't. So I know that these things work. So make sure you take advantage of that. And I cannot wait for you to be my next success story. So thanks, love. See you soon. Thanks for tuning in today to the Hormone Puzzle Podcast. Check out the show notes for today's episode at CoachKayla.com. If you like what you hear, please subscribe and leave a review. Thanks for hanging out with me, and I'll see you next week.